Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and I just got back from the new film Evil Dead, which is of course a remake slash reboot of Sam Raimi's film The Evil Dead. Mia and her friends who have gone to a cabin in the woods so she can get over heroin cold turkey. Her two friends, one a medical student, the other a high school teacher, and her brother and his girlfriend, who's pretty underdeveloped, come and all sit there and are going to, I guess, help her get over heroin, which sounds like a cool weekend, I guess, until suddenly they go into the basement and find the Book of the Dead, and evil demons start possessing them and making them attack each other and do crazy, awful, bloody, disgusting things. I'm kind of like evenly split with this movie, because as much as I like how bloody and disgusting and gory it is, and it becomes kind of surreal because the violence is so extreme, at a certain point it just doesn't feel real anymore, much like the original Evil Dead films. But I don't like how modern it is, the modern touches to it. I hate in cinematography where you have the camera like have everything out of focus but like one thing, and it doesn't even really matter to the shot. It's just a total bullshit style thing. I don't really like the whole story. I mean, I like that they put a new twist on it. I didn't really want to see anyone else play Ash other than Bruce Campbell, but the story kind of came off like kind of bad teenage soap opera drama that I really wasn't that interested in. And I felt like the character development was kind of weak. I didn't feel like I got to know anyone other than the Mia character played by Jane Levy and her brother David, and then her friend Eric are pretty much the prime characters in this film. Even Mia's friend Olivia, who's a nurse, kind of gets developed but doesn't. I hated the score. It almost sounded like someone whining in the background. I like this director, Fede Alvarez, I think you say his name. He's certainly no Sam Raimi, not that I ever thought he would be. And this is, I guess, really doing more of the original The Evil Dead, not doing the sequels, which were a lot more fun, you know. But The Evil Dead was kind of fun, you know. It was a fun movie. There were fun elements to it. There was a fun vibe about it. You could tell Sam Raimi kind of liked comedies in it. You couldn't tell as much as you could tell with Evil Dead 2, but you could certainly tell. And in this film, there's just like no fun. There's no humor to it, you know. It's just a straight horror film. Every time they've rebooted these films from the 70s and 80s, it feels like they get parts of it, but they don't exactly get what made it special. It felt like it didn't get the core of Evil Dead. You could really say, well, it's doing something totally different, and that's not fair. It's trying to do a different angle about it, which I think is really commendable. It just kind of becomes a little more uniform, a little less special. It is hard to watch this movie and take it seriously after something like Cabin in the Woods. This is the straight Cabin in the Woods. Cabin in the Woods is probably a better Evil Dead remake than the Evil Dead remake was. This Evil Dead movie has a bigger hurdle to get over than the Evil Dead movies. It has Cabin in the Woods, and like a lot of the times, especially at the beginning, before like all the gore and the violence and the horror started, I was thinking about Cabin in the Woods, how much of a better movie Cabin in the Woods was, and how funnier that was, and how much more fun that had to it, and honestly better shot. When it really gets to the gore and the horror of it, it's definitely one of the better horror films I've seen this year. Maybe I'm asking too much of it. What's different about this movie, you know, than an average horror movie? And there's not that much that's different. It's like, well, what if we made Evil Dead, but we made it like a regular horror movie? And that's kind of what they did. This director still knows how to do like some really cool, violent, gore, disgusting, bloody, you know, people's arms getting ripped off, and all the stuff you want from an Evil Dead movie in terms of violence and gore is here. I really like that about it, and I like this a lot more than a lot of horror reboots, which most of them I just totally hate. I like that it's kind of pushing the limits in terms of gore, and that, you know, a lot of horror films now I feel like gore is not as cool as it once was, and I'm glad that this film really went for it, and all the Evil Dead references were cool. But I don't think this film will be that memorable. I think overall, when, you know, we'll look back at the Evil Dead films, when you get a bunch of friends together and you have a marathon, once you get to Army of Darkness and you're too tired, you probably won't mind skipping it. But if you get there, it's not an awful movie. It's not, they didn't ruin the Evil Dead film. I think the problem I'm wrestling with here is, sure, it does get the gore, gets the violence, but where's the wit? Where's the fun? Where's the comedy that, like, I really like about Evil Dead? It's missing part of why you like Evil Dead. It's not missing the whole thing, but it is definitely missing part of it. I definitely put this higher on the list of like horror reboots and modern day remakes, but it's still like the problem I have with a lot of them. Maybe not as much as usual, but it's still there. It's just not a classic horror film. You know, it's just a very good genre horror film. I think this movie would have been better if it hadn't been called Evil Dead at all, and I probably would have liked it a lot more. It just had all this baggage to deal with that it never really wrestled from, because frankly, it wasn't that good to wrestle from it. So if you have seen Evil Dead and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.